Hi everyone, this is Sandra from Cherry Heart and I'm here to show you how I'm joining the squares in this blanket, which is my Battenberg blanket. So as you can see, it's just lots and lots of solid granny squares that I've joined together to form the fabric of the blanket. Now if I just show you on the back how they've been joined. So this is the back of the blanket, and as you can see I've got lots of rows of double crochet that are actually holding the blanket together. Now it looks like I've done that in just the usual way, which would be to crochet along all the rows of the blanket first and then come down and crochet all the columns until all the squares are attached. But actually I'm using a join as you go technique to join the squares instead, and to get the same effect. So I'm going to show you how I've done that. Now you can use any weight yarn to make the actual blanket. Mine's in a 4-ply yarn, but for this tutorial I'm going to use these Aran weight squares to hopefully so you can see the stitches a little better. So you begin with the 4 squares that you'd like to join, and in this example, as with my blanket, I've gone for colourful squares and I'm going to use the white squares to show how they're joining. Now I've made these squares up using my solid granny square pattern, which is a pattern that's on my crochet tutorial site, which is cherryheartcrochet.co.uk, and it's just the solid granny square. Now you'll probably want to use either my pattern so that you end up, when you've made the square, you end up in the same place as mine, or you'll need to use a pattern that also ends up in one of the corners. If it ends up along sort of in the side somewhere, along the middle of the side, this technique won't work for you. So as you can see, this square's been completed and I've made the slip stitch into the starting chain to complete the round. So to get ready for the join, all we need to do is make another slip stitch just into that corner space, just to get the working yarn right up to the corner. Then just take your hook out of the loop. We're just going to turn to the back and we're just going to pull that loop through to the back. So to join the other squares, we're actually going to work a round of double crochets or US single crochets around the square, and on each side we're going to be attaching one of these squares. So as we're just starting, we can start anywhere, so we'll start with this peach one. So the slip stitch to get through here counts as our first chain. Normally when you're making double crochets or US single crochets, you'd make one chain to start, so that has already been done for us. So we'll just make a double crochet or US single crochet in the normal way, and that'll be into the chain space of both the squares. So into the chain space of the white one and into the chain space of the peach one. Now both the squares, when you're joining them, the right sides always need to be facing each other, so the wrong sides are facing apart and the right sides are facing together. So we make a double crochet by yarning over and pulling through, yarning over and pulling through, and then we need to start by working into the first stitch. Now this is the trickiest part because the first stitch has got a little distorted. It's actually the chain that we slip stitched into to finish the round, and now that we've pulled this loop to the back, it's made the stitch twist forward. So it's facing away from us, so it can be a little tricky to get your hook into there. There we go, so we're into that first stitch, and let's look at it from the other side. Yeah, as you can see, we're in the top of that first stitch, and then if we just match that up with the first stitch of the other squares, I just like to open it up to match up those first ones, just to make sure I've got those right, and then yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through to make the double crochet, US single crochet. And once you've lined that first one up, it's normally quite easy to see where the next ones will go. There, I needed a little help lining the second one up. So as you're just working through, just make sure you get both loops, both of the top loops of the stitch for each square, so 4 loops over the hook each time when you're crocheting them together. So into the next stitch, 2 loops from that square, 2 loops from that square, and once they're all on the hook, then you can just make the stitch. So work all the way along the edge of the square in the same way. So once you've worked through all the stitches to the end, just need to make one more double crochet, US single crochet, into the corner spaces of both squares, and then we've finished attaching that square, and that's how it looks from the front. You almost get a sort of a sewn stitched effect, which I quite like. So now if we lay that down, you can see we've worked across this way, so the next one to attach is going to be this blue one. So we'll pop that right sides together, and we'll bring that back round so that we can crochet them together. Now the thing you need to remember just in the corners is to just make a chain for the corner, and that will be used later when we start to join more squares, but for now we just need to remember that between each side, in each corner, just make an extra little chain. So once we've got the chain in the corner, we just need to work a double crochet, US single crochet into the corner spaces, and then we'll work from the first stitch. So if we line those first ones up just to make sure we're working into the right place, they're nice and easy this time because they're not all distorted by slip stitches, and then we just work along this edge, crocheting the squares together. There we are at the end again, and we just finish by working a crochet into the corner spaces, and we make a chain for the corner, and we can join our next square so we can see which way we're working. So the lilac will be the next one, and we put them right sides together, work into the corner space, work into that first stitch, and work along the rest of the side. So once we've worked all the way around the square, attaching all 4 squares to the middle one, we just need to make that last chain for the last corner and just make a slip stitch into that starting double crochet to complete the round. So, and just pull the yarn through. So there's our 4 squares all joined together to the main square, and you can see that we've got these double crochet seams on the back. So if I just join a couple more squares now so that you can see what we do when we get to a place where a white square will join to the corner of another white square. So where these 2 corner points meet, I'll just show you what to do there. So using my completed square, we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to first slip stitch into the corner, and then we're going to just move that loop to the back of the work so that we can start to make our crochet stitches from the wrong side of the square. So I'll start with the pink one, and with the right sides together again, I'm going to work into the chain space and make a double crochet, US single crochet. And again, I'll show you again with this one where the stitch is just the top of the stitch is twisted away from this, so you just tilt it up so we can force that hook in there and line it up with the first stitch on the other square. So it's a little bit tricky to work it in there, but it comes. So now I've joined the two loose squares, I can attach this to the main part of our blanket by carrying on working around the back of the white square. So let's put them right sides together. And we're going to make a chain in the corner and work into the space first. And work all the stitches along this edge in the normal way. So that's the last double crochet, US single crochet into that side. So now I've worked along that yellow edge, we're now at the point where the two white squares, where the corners meet. So I'll just show you what to do there. So all I do is make a slip stitch under the one chain that we've been leaving in the corner. So if you insert the hook, it needs to go under that one chain, but the right side of the square, or the actual original square, is still under the hook. So that's the corner chains from the original square. And here's our joining crochet, and I'm just put that hook under that one chain, that one corner chain. So if we make a slip stitch there, and it just snugs our joining lines up nicely together and gives us a nice neat corner. And now I just need to work along the edge of the final square. There we are, back at the beginning of the round, just one chain to make that corner space and the slip stitch to finish the round. So we have our original 4 squares joined in the middle, and then we've added 2 extra ones here, and we can just see that that corner's nice and tightly together, all held into place with that slip stitch at the back. So that's the basic way to join the squares together and how you can continue adding squares to the blanket. The only other point to make you aware of is if you're working along the edge of a blanket and you might not need to join all 4 squares. So though it's quite straightforward to simply join it along 3 sides, the only thing you need to be aware of is just making sure you start in the right place. When we're making the square and we're working from the right side, we're obviously working around in this direction. So it's tempting to think you could start over here and work this way round. But of course, when we're joining from the back, we're working from the back, we actually travel in the other direction. So in this case, we'll need to put our square over here and work on this one first. So we'll join all the way along here, and that will leave us in the right corner to make the next join. So you're just, depending on which side of the blanket you're working on, whether it's the top or the bottom or the left or the right, you'll just need to make sure that you're starting the join in the right place, so that you end up with the last edge being the free edge that needs no join. So I'll just show you how that will work in this case. So let's get our square ready to join. Make that slip stitch into the corner. Hopefully this will all be nice and familiar to you now, but it's always worth repeating because sometimes it can be easier to see these things again when you're trying to pick it up. So our yarn is through to the back, and we want to work with this peach square first. So we put the right sides together and we're working into the We're working into the corner space first. So that's the last one there, and we just need to join the free square, and then we'll have our nice straight edge. Let's pop that on there. So we are, all our 3 squares are joined. We've got our nice straight edge, and we don't need to carry on along this edge. So we can just finish that there. So that's how I'm joining the squares for my blanket. That's my crochet joining method, my join as you go crochet joining method. And you can see that generally you'll always be working all the way down around the squares, and you can just join additional squares on by adding 1 or maybe 2 at a time and working all the way around the joining square. And then just at the edges you just need to be careful to start in the same place, so that you're leaving the free edge as the last edge that you work. And then the same thing in the corners. Obviously you'll only be joining on 2 edges, but you need to make sure that you start so that you join this way and then you can sign off. You don't want to join this one and then realise that you can't get back over there. So just a little bit of thought about where you start on those edges and corners. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I explained it clearly and you could see what was going on. If there are any extra little snippets I need to add, I'll just pop them in the drop box below, so it might be worth a quick look there. And well, I hope you have fun joining your squares. I hope you have fun making some lovely blankets using this technique. Happy crocheting! Bye!